Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Great Day Houston. All right, so have you ever been in love? Okay, but have you been in love the way actor Andrew McCarthy's been in love?
I love you. Always. Is because I am desperately, completely in love with you.
You have to love me forever.
Oh, I always have, I always will.
Well, thousands were in love with Andrew, even though their relationship was just through the silver screen. He was part of the Gen X actors starring in the 1980s coming-of-age films like St. Elmo's Fire and Pretty in Pink. Despite popular belief, the Brat Pack unpacked and went their separate ways between movies. Andrew is now an accomplished director and writer and takes us behind the scenes of those iconic days in his new book, Brat, an 80s Story. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
All right, I'm waiting for it.
There.
Oh, wait, what did you say? Say it again.
You look very pretty in pink.
Okay, you know, I've waited decades for that. You know, it's interesting, those iconic roles that you do, oftentimes with actors, we kind of stick you in that area. And truth of the matter is, there's so much more to you before you got into movies, so much more to you after those movies that we think about. And so I want to back up a little bit. Born in Westfield, New Jersey, third of four boys, you wanted to play basketball at first.
Yeah, but I was much too short and not a very good dribbler, so my career was short-lived. Yeah.
So when did acting become of interest to you?
Yeah, my mom, actually, I was cut from the basketball team, and my mom suggested I try out for the play, and I was like, I don't want to be in the play, I want to be the point guard. But anyway, yeah, so I walked on stage as the Artful Dodger in my high school play, and my life course was set. It was the minute I did it, I kind of went, oh my God, there I am. And that's
You've been quoted as saying you felt alive on stage.
Well, I felt like me, you know, in a way that I never had before. You know, I felt like, oh, there I am. And it was the best part I've ever played. I've actually played every other part the exact same way ever since. But, it was a real life-changing moment. I knew it was life-changing because I told absolutely no one how important it was to me. It was mine.
You went off to NYU, but you would skip class to see movies. And after a couple of years, you weren't at NYU anymore. What happened?
Yeah, well, they kicked me out. They said they would struggle on without me because I didn't seem to show up to my classes. And then luckily, right after that, a friend of mine called me up and said, look, they're casting a movie. They're looking for someone 18, vulnerable and sensitive. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. So I went and auditioned for this movie. And 10 auditions later, I was in a Hollywood movie called Class.
Yeah, which speaks to several points that are in your book, and we'll talk more about it in a second. But, you know, that kind of idea that sometimes we have this course that we've set for ourselves, and then life takes over, and opportunities come our way, and you knew to take those opportunities. You obviously, St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, Mannequin, Weekend at Bernie's, Lesson Zero. You got a lot of jobs, and then you did those with a group that came to be known as the Brat Pack, which was a play on the Rat Pack. If there's a Family Feud question for those of you out there, let me just go ahead and say members: Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy. You did not like the term.
Well, when I was a kid and at first it was sort of leveled at us, I did not. I mean, who wants to be called a brat, you know? And I thought it was very kind of limiting and putting us in a box, as it were. And yeah, it took me a long time to kind of come to terms. I said, now that term, an affectionately iconic term, a recollection of that kind of bygone era and of people, a certain generation. It's the touchstone for their youth, you know. So I've become this kind of avatar for people's moment in life when they're just, you know, when they're like 20 years old, when they're just cusping and they're going out into the world. You don't have to listen to the grown-ups. You can make your own decision. Your life is an empty canvas to be painted on. It's a thrilling time, you know, and it only happens at that instant. And I kind of, and the people in those movies, the Brat Pack, sort of represent that to a generation of people. And so it's become this sort of wonderful thing as opposed to this sort of albatross that it was early on. It's interesting how things can transform and become a blessing when it seems they were a curse.
Yeah. You know, Emilio Estevez, I interviewed him not long ago, and he said, you know, he didn't like it either, but by the same token, he felt like it would be on his tombstone because it portrayed the Gen X as Bloom had, the journalist who had coined the phrase, you know, spoiled, entitled, and bratty. And I think that's like another term for teenager, maybe, right? All right. So the fact that
I've had a couple of teenagers, I know.
Yeah, you know. All right. So when you say Brat Pack, we just had this assumption that all of you hung together all the time. And as you point out in the book, you're like, not really.
Well, I don't know how real it actually ever was in a literal sense, but as we've just been talking about, in a sort of ether sense, it was very real. But also, I lived in New York, so I didn't really hang with the guys, and occasionally, but not that often. I think it was, again, was one of those kind of creations that is just sort of more what it represents as opposed to something it actually was in a nuts and bolts way.
Yeah, Brat and 80s story. Why did you decide now to reflect on those times?
Well, I thought, well, I can still remember a few of them getting so old.
I'm
what's
close to your age, so I'm not going to go with the getting so old thing.
That line, sort of, we live our lives forward and figure them out backwards. I think, it was such a seminal time in my life, and my whole life has been an outgrowth of what happened in those several years. And I never looked at it because I kind of ran from it, for all the reasons we've just been talking about. And I kind of figured, what's under that rock? Well, I should look at that. And I have actually found it quite liberating in a certain way. And the response has been very nice. People have sort of, waxed their youth and remembered all this kind of stuff. So it's been a lovely kind of journey with it so far. I'm surprised. I didn't know that it would turn out like that.
Yeah, therapeutic for you, but also for a lot of us. It explores that underbelly of fame. Be careful what you wish for. You talk about the ambition, innocence, excess, and addiction. And by the way, you've been sober since 1992, so congratulations. But so many other lessons for us to learn from this book. You admit that you weren't a great student. And in our society today, we want every student to be great at everything. And we negate the fact that you can just be good at a few things or one thing and still be successful and still be a valuable person.
Well, yeah, I mean, school is very much a box, and if you fit in that box and you tick those little markers in that box, you'll do great. I did not tick that. Like my son, he did not tick that. My son's a very bright guy, and he didn't fit in school. I didn't fit in school. And so the problem with that is you end up thinking you're not very smart because you don't fit what their definition of smart is. So I left school, and I think it took me years to recover from the idea that I wasn't very smart.
Yeah.
And that's.
But you're very good at a lot of things. You're very good at a lot of things. You did Broadway, The Boys of Winter, and Sideman, guest spots on TV roles, directed Gossip Girl and Orange is the New Black, also in the award-winning travel writer and editor-at-large at National Geographic Traveler. So it's not to say that you aren't good at things.
Well, we sort of learn to make do and figure our way, don't we?
Yeah.
I have no qualifications to do any real job, so I have to sort of figure it out as I go along.
Well, I think you've done okay. All right. And if people want to get to, connect with you a little bit more, because one of the things that you also say is that you really enjoy parts of your career where you feel more connected. Blue Willow Bookshop. We love that bookshop here in town. It's great to have a bookshop here in town and to be able to have a book in your hand. You will be doing an event with them. I'll tell people about that in a second. But thank you so much for joining us today. And can you just tell me one last time I look?
You're very pretty in pink.
All right. Got it. Andrew, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
And you can catch Andrew McCarthy at 7 p.m. tonight on Zoom during a virtual event hosted by the Blue Willow Bookshop. For tickets, visit bluewillowbookshop.com. You can also pick up a copy of his book, Brat, an 80s Story, wherever books are sold.